Hello, everyone. How we doing? I hope everyone is enjoying their Monday morning stroke just not long ago turned afternoon. My name's Dan Clubb. I'm here on the Redmen TV about to bring you the latest Liverpool transfer news update. So, yeah, let's get into it. Please get involved with your comments, questions, and anything else you've got for me along the way in the chat. I will be bringing them up as we go along. The Dogs Ballards kicks us off with Let's Do It. Yes, let's do it indeed. And Shane Humphreys also, I want to bring your comment up before we go any further. Evening from Australia, I should say. Hello to everybody all around the world, wherever you're watching. Not just good morning, not just good afternoon, but also good evening to some of you guys as well. Let me know where you are in Australia, Shane. Australia holds a special place in my heart. So, yeah, please let me know exactly where you are in that beautiful country. Yeah, let's get stuck into it then. So, yesterday, I brought you the news that Liverpool were talking to the agents of Benjamin Pavard. This time, I'm here to bring you the news that Liverpool have reportedly made contact for Romeo Lavia, Southampton midfielder, of course. And to do so, I bring you a report from Football Insider via friend of the show, I'm going to call him, David Lynch. And he has provided what he's described as a major update on Liverpool bid to sign the aforementioned Romeo Lavia. Now, he does say that Liverpool do not want to be dragged into a bidding war with Chelsea or the Premier League elite over the signing of Lavia, but he goes on to say that the Reds have had contact with Lavia's representatives, but competition for his signature could make a deal difficult. Now, I also want to bring up the next bit on this. Might be a bit after. So Jurgen Klopp talking about the one guarantees that 19-year-old only wants to join the Anfield club in order to pursue a deal, and that perhaps is because of a clause that he has with Manchester City, the club that he was sold for Southampton. He's under contract at St Mary until 2027, but Man City have a buyback clause worth 40 million that becomes active next summer. That's in 2024. So if Liverpool are going to get a deal done for Lavia, it does feel like it is pretty much this summer. Or maybe Man City just come and buy him, because extremely talented footballer. Somebody I spoke to about a little while ago, actually, Sasha Tovieri, the Belgian journalist, was waxing lyrical about Romeo Lavia and indeed Liverpool's interest. It must have been over a month ago now. I spoke to him over on Redmen Plus, and he was adamant Liverpool were desperate to get Lavia this summer. And according to David Lynch, that is a deal that definitely has some legs. Townsville, Australia, Shane Humphreys replies, okay, nice, yeah. I spent 6 months in Melbourne when I was younger. Absolutely loved it. Did a little period in Sydney as well. Went down to Tasmania. Just what a place, quite frankly. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Axel. Just bring this up before we carry on with Lavia. Yes, Dom Dewsbury. Dan's working overtime recently. He needs a pay rise. Yeah, if you could message that directly to Chris, or I'll just show Chris that later, that'd be boss. Because I agree. Of course I agree. I would agree. I've been informed that we've had some gifted memberships, so I need to get my board ready, which it isn't right now. So cleaning the board could be difficult. I might just use the other side and just pretend it says YouTube members there. Before I go on with the show, I'm going to box this off because, get the important admin dealt with first before I speak to you a bit properly about Romeo Lavia. Now let me just find my pen. David John, again, you are some man, by the way. You are some man. I'm going to put David John's name at the top of this because it deserves to be. Because you have gifted 5 more of our YouTube memberships. Just what a fella. We've got Chris Hunter. Congratulations, Chris. Top man. Right, let's get this busy now. My apologies for the handwriting. That's a name that... Deutschen 7? Yeah, let me know how to pronounce that one if you can in the comments. It's got a number in it, in my defence, so it's more difficult than usual to actually pronounce. Just let me get the number in. There we go. E-N. Cool. Anxiety, is that? Anxiety. Get that on the board. Amendra Manhart. Nice, I can do that. No problem. Congratulations to you as well. There's an R there, like that. And then Manhart. We can do that. No problem. And then Dom Lear to finish as well. You lucky recipients. Don't know why I put a D there. Gone Dom Deer. I'm sure you've never heard that before. Right, Dom Lear, there you are. All on the board, as well as the 6 from yesterday. David John is some individual, quite frankly. He really, well and truly is. Top work. You lucky guys have just got YouTube membership for the Redmen TV, and that will also get you access to this afternoon's. You thought I was working overtime before. Yeah, you'll also get access to this afternoon's biased podcast about transfers as well, which I will also be on, of course. And so Clarence Worley says, your writing looking pretty similar to mine. You've got terrible writing as well. Eerily similar is actually the word you use. Yeah, my is awful, quite frankly. Anyway, boss again, thank you very much. I will get into why I'm actually sat here again. Keep your comments coming in though, guys. So Romeo Lavia, what are we thinking? Are we sold on that? 19 years old, that is obviously extremely young. It does feel like a lot of Liverpool's business is going to be of younger lads this time around. I think as much as we're buying players to come in and fix the problems we've got right away, it does feel like we're still got one eye on the future and trying to future-proof our midfield for years to come. We're being proactive as opposed to reactive this time. And say we get three lads, McAllister's probably just above that age bracket. Actually, he might be the oldest lad we sign because Thuram 22, Kone 22, Lavia 19, of course, and Gravenberch is recently 20. Like, all extremely young. McAllister could well be the most experienced one. And Anxiety, one of our new lucky YouTube members, raises that point as well. He says, are we worried we're getting too many young lads? I'm not sure worry is the right word. I get to be concerned because, like I say, we need ready to go, plug and play, ideally Premier League experienced players to come in. McAllister obviously ticks those boxes, but out of the next two or three that we sign, if they were sort of 22, 20 and 19 for argument's sake, I wouldn't have a huge problem with it because, like, we still have got Jordan Henderson. We still have got Fabinho. We still have got Thiago. Curtis Jones is a little bit older now. Harvey Ellis is a little bit older now. Like, there are still lads there who are going to play football for Liverpool. I think it's easy, given the diabolical season we've just had, especially from a midfield perspective, to just go, right, throw them all out, get rid of them all. They're all finished. Let's start again completely. Liverpool aren't likely to do that. I think Keita, Milner and Oxlade-Chamberlain leaving was enough of a clear out in terms of the midfield for us to sign three younger lads and then go, okay, we can work with what we've got left and add those three to the mix, and that's completely whole new dimensions in midfield. So I'm okay with it. I must admit I'm okay with it. And I was impressed with Lavia this season just gone. It's such a difficult one when you're talking about players who've been relegated with their side, because how easy is it just to go, well, blanket, they got relegated, they must all be crap. None of them are good enough. I'm not quite sure that's true for someone like Lavia, to be honest. I think he had a decent season in what was a really poor side. And let's be honest, I said it yesterday when I was talking about James Ward-Prowse. Forgive me, everyone. We've had a lot of success signing players from relegated teams in the past few seasons. Obviously, we get Andy Robertson from Hull, Gino Wijnaldum from Newcastle, Xherdan Shaqiri from Stoke to a lesser extent. I know, I think there's just a release clause in that, and we just go and get it done. But yeah, I wouldn't be too put off by the fact that he has just been relegated. I'd just sort of take it. If Jurgen Klopp wants him and the guys behind the scenes, your Will Spearmans of this world, think he's good enough, let's go and do it. And let's be honest, at 19, he's not likely to come in and just play every single minute of every single game. I think he's one who's more likely to be a definite understudy to the likes of Fabinho. And on that point, he plays 29 times last season in the Premier League for Southampton, scores once. And overall, he played 35 games, got one goal, the Premier League one, and one assist. But if you look at his positioning, that's probably most interesting. He obviously plays 22 games as an out-and-out six, as a defensive midfielder. And the others, it's just another 8 games on there as a more advanced type box-to-box type player. So I do think Lavia, more than Thuram, more than Kone, and definitely more than Gravenberch, would be that 6 understudy. So he'd make a lot of sense in that point as well. Sil Knit raises a question on it as well. I'll come to yours in a second, Vidu. He is homegrown. Yeah, he would have homegrown. I don't think he'd be as homegrown as, like, obviously, if he was English and brought up in this country forever, that ticks different boxes. But he's definitely been trained here for long enough to classify as one of the... There's different levels of homegrown, isn't it? I know the Champions League has different rules as well. So, yeah, I think he would definitely be ticking some quota boxes when it comes to that, to be honest. And Vidu says, the real question is he good enough? It depends what you're after, I guess, in many senses. Now, I think we'd all love to sit here and say, let's go and sign 4 or 5 first-team footballers who are just going to come into the side, walk in and just make us boss again. That's the ideal solution. I don't know if that's realistic. I think it's more realistic that we get, obviously, McAllister's done. Then we get one ready to go, very good, but still very young, i.e. Thuram, I hope, in my opinion. And then maybe we go down a level again, and it's somebody like Lavia. I know Gabby Vega's been heavily linked as well. Somebody a little bit younger again, who will come in and play a role, and he'll rotate with Fabinho, he'll rotate with Jordan Henderson, whoever else it may be. But, I don't know, it might take a little bit longer. Now, my only qualm with all of this, really, is he blocking the pathway for someone like Stefan Bajcetic? Now, if we think Bajcetic is going to be a 6 forever, then perhaps he is, because Lavia is a little bit older than Bajcetic, plus you're going to sign him for around the 40 million mark. So the chances are he will go above him in the pecking order. There's a conversation around Bajcetic being more advanced than a 6, so that could be the difference there. Ashley Frith, one of our brilliant club legends, asks, I've seen more reports linking us to James Ward-Prowse instead from Saints. Yeah, I covered a lot of that yesterday. I am not sold on James Ward-Prowse, one iota. Like I said yesterday, if it gets to August time and we haven't sort of done all our midfield business as required and James Ward-Prowse is still at Southampton, possibly go and sign him for a very cut price fee. But my God, if we can help it, we need to avoid that badly. I feel like Lavia is a much better option than James Ward-Prowse. Like, there's 9 years difference between them in age for a start. You're not going to go and spend money on James Ward-Prowse. Like I said when I was talking about Pavard, that Thiago was the outlier in terms of Liverpool going and signing already proven players who are sort of above the age of 27, 28. Now, we clearly just seen an opportunity with Thiago because he was so cheap, essentially, and so available that we just couldn't ignore it. You just had to go and sign someone of that ability. I actually felt like Pavard might be similar to that in terms of Liverpool seeing opportunity. Somebody very good, very experienced, covers 2 roles. He wants to leave, possibly be able to pick him up at a bit of a bargain. Liverpool might not be able to pass up that potential. We'll wait and see. But with James Ward-Prowse, that feels slightly different to me. It feels like one that, yeah, if Southampton are asking for 50 million for, that is absolutely steer well away from. So, yeah, I want to get a bit more on Lavia before I move on. I've got a bit more to talk about just yet. Let's just have a look at some more of the comments here before we go. Okay, let's see what Nigel Smith's saying. That looks like an interesting comment. Nigel says, Thuram, Lavia and James Ward-Prowse are all wrong. None of those are comfortable on the ball. None of those have a decent first touch. I want to have a conversation with you about Kefren Thuram. Quite frankly, that is blasphemy about Kefren. I've done a lot of talking about him over the past week to lots of different people who know him far better than I do. Like, from the little I've seen of him in terms of his game to game, I don't believe that's true. And from what I've heard of him since, I definitely believe that's true. We've actually got a show coming out a little bit later on Redmen Plus. I spoke to European football expert Alex Barker, who would definitely have a conversation with you about Lillian Thuram, then that's his dad. Kefren Thuram being not comfortable on the ball. He is very, very comfortable on the ball. Don't worry about that. And I should say at this point as well, if you want to listen to that show, and indeed any other shows we have on Redmen Plus, including Steve speaking to Neil Jones just this morning about more transfer-related stuff, of course, including a little bit on Benjamin Pavard. Make sure you head to Redmen Plus, sign up as a club captain, yearly subscriber, use the code MAC10, and you will get all that year's content for 50% off. That's just 25 quid for a whole year. And that includes the upcoming Bobby Firmino documentary. So what an absolute no-brainer that is, by the way. And there's only a few hours left of that. That ends tonight at midnight, I believe. So few more comments. Let's just see what this one's saying before we do. That was our own comment. Don't want to bring that up. Goal Lounge TV. Names when they're in one are really difficult. It might just be me, and I apologise if it is. Lavia would be a prospect signing, but would he have enough quality to immediately add to the squad depth that could contribute to a potential title charge? Yeah, I think he would. I'd make you absolutely bang on the prospect signing front, by the way. Like I've already said, if we're really desperate for Fabinho replacement, he isn't that. If we need someone to come in and take some minutes off Fabinho and to take a bit of the burden off and a bit of the pressure off, and if we're winning the game, for instance, take him off for 20 minutes so he can rest, that's Romeo Lavia for me. League Cup, Europa League, FA Cup, plus minutes out of Fabinho. Romeo Lavia is absolutely the man for that job. Interesting comment there, actually. I want to bring that up. Riley Owen says, would rather have Fabinho and Bajcetic to start with Henderson and Morton as cover. Tyler Morton's an interesting inclusion into that. I think he's had a good season with Blackburn. I spoke to somebody recently, actually, a Blackburn journalist, on him, and it's a fascinating one because the manager, it's John Dahl Thomason, the manager there, loves him, or loved him as he was at the club, and played him week in, week out, essentially. But the fans were never quite sold on him. I think he was just doing a job, not really standing out, and it's hard when you're a lone player to sort of do a job and not be the man, especially when you're on loan for a Premier League club like Liverpool. The expectations are through the roof, aren't they? So I think Morton's got a big pre-season coming up, to be honest. And it'd be interesting to see how he fares. And he'll get a chance in pre-season, I'm certain of that. But I do wonder whether there's more of a chance of him going back on loan, potentially. Because I think asking him to be covered, the Henderson point is definitely a valid one. I think him dropping into the 6 is something we will see more and more of. I'm not the first one to say it, but I've said it for a while. Henderson, for me, should sort of revert to the James Milner role. Now Milner's left, so maybe we'll see him more of the 6, in which case signing Lavia doesn't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of moving parts to all this yet, and the future of the likes of Morton is definitely going to have an impact on what we do in the market. Luke McAnally, Sydney, Australia, listen to. Hi Luke, your city is incredible, quite frankly. I was only there for 3 or 4 days, but it was a special, special place. So yeah, a little bit more on Lavia before I move on, just a tiny bit more. Yeah, like I say, I wouldn't be against the signing whatsoever, and I had a quick look at some of his stats earlier on, and I had a brief look. I haven't got the comparison for Fabinho, but overall, according to SofaScore last season, he averaged 6.80. That's obviously in the Premier League. He had a bit of a disaster against us there, as you can see. Obviously assisted Diogo Jota in that game. That wasn't his finest moment. As auditions go, it wasn't the greatest one I've ever seen from Lavia, but I think overall he's actually had a decent season there. 77 minutes per game. I want to drop down to his tackling, because his attacking numbers are negligible, really, because that's not what you expect from him. His expected assists was 0.61, takes 47 touches per game, 0.6 key passes. That's actually not too bad. His passing accuracy, so he completed 29.5 passes per game at 86%. That's good. That's impressive. And then these are the numbers that really count for somebody who is essentially playing in the 6 a lot. I think tackles per game 2.1 and interceptions per game 1.1. I think anything over 2 for tackles and 1 for interceptions is definitely in the right direction. They're not elite numbers, like sort of your 3s and your 2s will be elite numbers on those, but I think they're impressive enough to suggest that there's definitely a talented player there, especially when you consider just how poor Southampton were. Now, you could argue his workload is increased by the fact that Southampton were so bad and they were conceding so many goals. But for me, I think there's a player in Lavia, and I think getting in this summer before Manchester City go buy him next summer, essentially, would be a really smart move from the Reds. But listen, I'm more than willing to be wrong and be corrected. Goal Lounge TV, got your name this time, look at that, masses it. Asked me to rate Thuram, Kone, Vega and Lavia out of 10 as signings. I'll do that for you now. I'd go Thuram. I'm completely all in on Kefren Thuram. All in. Hence me taking such offence a moment ago when I think it was Nigel said he couldn't kick a football, essentially. It's a real offence to that. So Thuram, I'd be a 9. I'd be lying if I said as a 10 because, you know, a Bellingham, God forbid I say his name, would have been 10. I go 9 for Thuram, a 7 on Kone. I'm getting more and more put off his signing as the days go by. Gabby Vega, I'd be a 7 as well. Really like him as a player. Not sure how much sense it makes for Liverpool. And it'll actually be an 8 for Lavia, just because I'm desperate for us to get that 6 cover. I think Bajcetic could be an 8. I really do. He's such a different type of 6 because he's not the big physical presence. Lavia isn't either, to be fair. Lavia's not a huge physique. Kefren Thuram's bigger than them all. Lavia is more of a ball-playing 6, much like Bajcetic is going to be, it looks like. But I don't know, I think there's more to Bajcetic, I really do. I think there's an 8 in Bajcetic, rather. And I think we'll see that a little bit this season coming. Emily Roberts says, if we sign Thuram for around 45 million, Kone around 30, Jurrien Timber around 40, and McAllister done, making it about 150 million, not unreasonable. No, it's not unreasonable at all. The Timber shout is an interesting one. I've just seen he's done an interview actually in Holland, basically saying that he can't say whether he'll still be in Holland come next summer. So there's a possibility there's something there. I know Pavard is very much on the agenda at the moment for Liverpool in defensive point of view. Him and Timber both make a lot of sense. They both tick a lot of boxes. Timber's obviously far younger, so he, to me, will be more of an ideal candidate for that role. There's also talk I've seen Fabrizio Romano this morning tweeted about getting a left-footed centre-back, because obviously we've seen Andy Robertson do the left-sided role and do it well. I'm not sure how perfectly it suits him, if I'm going to be brutally honest, moving forwards. But yeah, there's definitely scope to go and get a couple of defenders at least. But again, it probably depends what Joel Matip wants to do with his future too. Dave says, as a Dutch viewer, Timber is pretty overrated, his opinion. He's not convinced he has what it takes to play in the Prem. Okay, fair enough. I mean, I'll take your word for it on that. I've been impressed with what I've seen of Timber. But I guess the step up from the Eredivisie is such a significant one. Like, it's a bit much a 50-50 from players coming from the Eredivisie, like, without going into the finer details of it, because you get your likes of Gakpo come in, hit the ground running, of course, but then how many signings from that league have just not worked, quite frankly? I think it's probably more than we'd care to realise. Riley Owen says as well, he really thinks that Lavia is more of a luxury signing that we can afford. Would love him if the midfield was fully sorted. Yeah, quite possibly. And like I say, do you really want to be stepping on Stefan Bajcetic's toes, like blocking his pathway? He missed a lot. Well, he missed the entire end of the season, essentially, Bajcetic. And when I spoke to Neil the other day, he indicated that he might miss a little bit of pre-season as well. So whether there's concerns around that injury and whether he might miss a bit at the start of the season, that could even play a part in what we do this window potentially. So, yeah, again, loads of moving parts to all of this. Absolutely loads. I just finish up on this one before I move up my agenda. So Romy Rom says we need to get Thuram, that's mandatory, but we're also forgetting we need a centre back desperately. I'd love us to get Guardiola. He said he's a Liverpool fan, yet he did say he's a Liverpool fan. I would also love us to get Guardiola. Like, ideal window from now, I did this a couple of weeks ago, my ideal window from now would be Thuram, Guardiola, and I'll say Gravenberch. I will. Yeah. Anyway, I'll move us on. The next part I want to talk to you about is a big report that Ian Doyle has done for Liverpool Echo, and I'll bring it up in just a second, but primarily I want to read through some of the quotes from it. I'll just show you the report now before I go back to the quotes when it loads up. It's taking its time. It's taking its time so much I might not even show it you. No, I'm not showing it you. He said, trust me, he said this, Ian Doyle for Liverpool Echoes, person I've spoken to a lot as well, top man, Ian Doyle. He said the French duo Kefren Durand of Nice and Manu Kone of Borussia Mönchengladbach remain on the shortlist as Liverpool now look to determine preferred and achievable targets. And he also mentioned Ryan Gravenberch being another, but he does say that Bayern Munich have appeared not keen to sell, having only signed a Dutchman last summer. Although it didn't really work, did it? He didn't play a lot. I think a lot will depend on what Thomas Tuchel wants to do with Gravenberch. He also says, I mean, interesting note, that Liverpool are huge admirers of Bruno Guimaraes of Newcastle, but they believe that deal to be a non-starter. Yeah, I spoke about him about a week ago on this very show, and essentially said, come on now, let's be serious. He then went on to say, much like I've just spoken about with Guardiola, a left-sided central defender is the ideal in terms of the central defensive recruitment, which is what a comment somebody else made just a second ago, with a potential to grow into the position. And he says that Levi Colwill, who spent the season on loan at Brighton, of course, from Chelsea, is admired by the Liverpool recruitment team. But that, to me, I'm talking off myself now, not Ian, seems like a really difficult deal to do, given that he plays for Chelsea. Like, Chelsea going to want to come back strong. They're not going to want to sell their best assets to Liverpool. Like, I know they've got 1 million footballers on the books right now, but I still find it really difficult to foresee a world whereby they sell one of their prize assets to what they'll still perceive as a rival. And he also mentions Mickey van der Ven of Wolfsburg, another name who's been very much around in recent weeks. But he says at present, Liverpool have not registered any official interest in the Dutch defender. So yeah, I want to bring up this comment because that's actually the next thing I want to talk to you guys about. Ginge96, there's a name. Ramsey to Preston, what do you think? Yeah, that's Calvin Ramsey, and that actually comes from the Press and Journal, a journalist called Paul Ferd, who has reported that the Championship club are very keen on signing our young Aberdonian right-back, who had an injury-plagued season at Liverpool for his first campaign, I think it's fair to say. And there's an interesting twist to that for me. I think as a deal, Ramsey the right back to Preston would make a lot of sense. But I'm not sure what it means for us, because we're already talking about needing sort of backup to the right back role. And if we sell or loan Calvin Ramsey to Preston, are we then going Conor Bradley as the backup? Just had an amazing season on loan at Bolton, don't get me wrong. But I think there's a lot of pressure to ask someone like Bradley to step into Trent's shoes if he ever is suspended, ill, needs a rest, whatever it may be. if you can do it, sound, let's just do it. But I think I would rather see Calvin Ramsey stick around and Conor Bradley go out and get another loan spell somewhere else, personally. That's my personal take. David asked, what about Mark Gahey of Palace? Very good player. Yeah, somebody I think we should definitely be keen on. I actually spoke to Chris Bascom about him recently. And yeah, he didn't exactly say Liverpool were dead interested in him. But in terms of the style, I think he would make a lot of sense for what we're looking to do. To be honest, I really do. So, yeah. And there's one more very brief story I do want to touch upon, and it's just Tsimikas. And according to, strap yourselves in for this pronunciation, Giannis, that's the easy bit, Korianopoulos. I'm all right with that. Korianopoulos. According to Giannis Korianopoulos, Kostas Tsimikas has no intention to leave Liverpool, and as we speak, Liverpool have no intention to sell him. So I'm fine with that, quite frankly. I think keeping him around makes sense. A lot of that will depend essentially on what we do in terms of formation and stuff like that, because I think having Tsimikas as a backup to Andy Robertson as the left-sided centre-back actually doesn't make loads of sense, because all of Tsimikas' best attributes are very much in the final third, very much in the attacking sense. But if we're going to sign a left-sided centre-back, all of a sudden then we probably do need to sell Tsimikas, because then Robertson is kind of your first choice left-back and your backup left-sided centre-back, making Tsimikas third for both, would you say? And that's not healthy for him. I don't know. I think if we're going to go back to 4-3-3 ever, keep Tsimikas around, because he's a brilliant, brilliant understudy to Andy Robertson, he really is. But if we do sign this left-footed centre-back that we all seem to want, like a Gvardiol, for instance, for example, or even Colwill, whoever it may be, then yeah, I struggle to see a world whereby Tsimikas plays loads of football, and he doesn't play loads of football now, quite frankly. So, difficult one for him. Frankie J75 says, Pavard is Trent's backup if we get him. Yeah, absolutely he is. And again, that'll throw a different dimension to the mix when it comes to Calvin Ramsey and indeed Conor Bradley. And I think both of them could well head out on loan if we were to sign someone like Pavard, because did a show on Pavard yesterday. Absolutely agree. He's, in terms of positionally, he's the perfect man to be back up to Konate and Trent, of course. I want to bring this comment up before I start to wrap up, everyone. Goal Lounge TV, thanks again for getting involved. Goal Lounge, massively appreciate your input today. A left field shout, but should Liverpool cash in on Thiago? I had this conversation, I've said this like 6 times already in the show, I apologise, but you are bringing up a lot of conversations I've had recently. We did keep sell loan on Red Men Plus the other day. And Thiago is my curveball conversation starter, let's just say for that. Now, I adore Thiago. Anyone that was watching yesterday will have seen I literally had a Thiago top on. I think he's boss. I think he's a genius, quite frankly. I really do. The things you can do on a football field, not many in world football can emulate. However, having said all that good stuff, he is injury prone. Like, there's no getting away from that. He is, I think he's 32 now. He is in the final year of his deal. If offers were to come in for Thiago, anywhere near what we paid for him, sort of 20 and upwards, I'd be open to the idea of letting him go. The only thing it does do, having said all of that, is it creates another hole in the midfield. Like, we're desperately trying to fill holes in the midfield and strengthen that area. Selling someone like Thiago is a problem. Now, there's loads of different caveats to that. There's the fact that if we have more fit, ready and quality midfielders, he won't need to play as much, so you can get the best out of him when he does play. And also, if you do keep him around, you've either A, got to let him go on a free next summer, which isn't great business, quite frankly, or B, give him a new deal, which also isn't great business. So Thiago is a really tricky one, which is why it's an interesting comment and why I wanted to touch upon it before I do wrap up. Last couple now. Davin Lewis says, Gvardiol's too expensive. No, I fear he might be. Yeah, if Leipzig do want the £100 million mark that's been muted previously, he would be too expensive this window, unfortunately. I mean, we can give them Fabio Carvalho plus 10 million if they want, something like that. I know they're desperate to sign him, so I'm willing to do that deal if they are. Emily Roberts says, would you say Colwill and Thuram and then just promote Morton and Doak? Yeah, again, with the Morton one, I'd say Colwill and Thuram. Yes, absolutely, I would. Like, where do I sign, quite frankly, for that? Morton, I don't know how ready he is yet to be sort of a mainstay in the squad. I could say the same about Ben Doak, but I know Ian Doyle, in the report I brought up just earlier, said that Liverpool are desperate not to sort of get in the way of Ben Doak and his role moving forwards. And it's a conversation that a lot of people have been having about the right side of our attack. Like, we've got backup on the left, we've got Jota, Diaz, Nunes can play from the left, of course. Centrally, we've got Nunes and Jota and Gakpo, of course. On the right, we've kind of got Salah, and then Diaz can do an imitation of it. Jota can do an imitation of it. I'm not sold on either of them on the right, if I'm going to be honest. So I do think we need an option on the right-hand side. Now, Mohamed Salah's availability is exceptional. If Liverpool think Ben Doak is ready to be on the bench for sort of Premier League matches, play Europa League matches, play League Cup matches, and give Salah a rest, either in-game or 4 different games, then I'm fine with that. Absolutely fine with that. Just going to go through the last few comments now before I do eventually wrap up. I want to tell you one more thing before I do. Anxiety, thanks again, Anxiety, and congratulations on the membership. Says, any shouts for Quanta from our academy? Now, I only brought this up because, would you believe, I had a conversation about Joel Quanta not too long ago with the son of former Liverpool legend, Jeff Twentyman. Now, Jeff is a Bristol Rovers reporter, essentially. He's lived down in Bristol for a long time. He's a Scouser. He was on the books of Liverpool himself as a youngster, as a centre-half, actually, so he was the perfect man to speak about Quanta. And he couldn't speak highly enough of him. He thought he was outstanding. I know he's recently been to the Under-20s World Cup with England, had a decent tournament there, by all accounts. England didn't cover themselves in glory, let's just say, in that one. But Quanta is definitely a bright prospect. Now, the only thing I'd say is he spent last year in League One. He probably needs a championship loan before we can consider him being part of the squad. But longer term, quite possibly, Joel Quanta. From what I've been told, that conversation I had with Jeff, he very much believes he's one for the future for Liverpool. I think he actually said the line, and forgive me, Jeff, I'm sure you will, you're a lovely man. I think he said the line that he will play for Liverpool in the Premier League. So watch that space. And Riku Sekaguchi says Chiesa. I guess you're referring to we need some right-sided cover. Chiesa could be that. He could also be, obviously, a bit of false 9 cover and even a little bit of left-hand side cover. Chiesa's injuries, lads, his injuries are just a huge, huge red flag to me. They really are. With all these players, I've seen people talking before about Thuram and Džeko being good. I know he missed the last couple of games of the season for Nice, but that's minor compared to some of the things we've seen as Liverpool fans down the years. Chiesa's injuries are a huge problem. They are. That's why he's available for 35 million that I've seen knocking around. As a player, as a person with ability, he is absolutely not a £35 million footballer. He's probably about double that, but his injuries are a major issue. A major, major issue. And the same could be said, Emily, I've just seen somebody's replied to your comment there about Pulisic. The same could be said for him, unfortunately. And I think you said 20 million. The comments flew off now. I apologise. Even for 20 million, on the budget that we're looking for and what we need to do and how important it is, I agree with you, Dave, as you've seen it there. No more injury-prone players. We just can't do it. I think it's so frustrating when you see players out time and time again, but also when this summer is so pivotal and it's so important that every single penny is spent in the right area. That's why we have these conversations. That's why we have these discussions about Lavia, Gravenberch, Thuram, Kone. It's so important we get it right. I can't justify spending money on Chiesa or Pulisic as much as I think they're both good players. Unfortunately, in many senses, they just don't fit the bill for what we're looking to do right now. Not even close. Anyway, I will wrap up. I'll let you guys carry on in the discussion. Thank you very much, everyone, for getting involved. It's been a pleasure, as always. Just to surmise what I've spoken about, which I always like to do at the end of these shows. The headline news was from David Lynch of Football Insider. Liverpool made contact for Southampton midfielder Romeo Lavia. Now, we're aware of interest from other Premier League clubs. Obviously, Manchester City also have that buyback clause, which comes into force next summer. So Liverpool are potentially keen to bring him in before that comes into play. Watch this space. Not a player that would be top of my list, if I'm going to be honest, for Liverpool to go and sign. But if other things don't fall into place, he's definitely one I wouldn't mind seeing coming to the club. I don't think he'd be first choice. I think he's definitely one for the squad and one for the future thereafter. Also touched on some stories from Ian Doyle and talk about interest in Levi Colwill. Difficult one to do because of Chelsea, of course. and indeed Calvin Ramsey. Could be heading to Preston on loan. I think a lot will have to depend on what happens with Conor Bradley and indeed Benjamin Pavard, stroke any other centre-back, stroke right-back. And finally, Kostas Tsimikas currently has no intention of leaving Liverpool Football Club. Again, that may well depend. That could change quickly. If Liverpool go and sign a left-sided centre-back, that situation could develop rapidly as well. Anyway, been an absolute pleasure speaking to you all, as always. Just want to tell you, finally, if you do head to Redmen Plus and sign up as a Club Captain yearly subscriber, use the code MAC10. You will get a year's worth of amazing content for half price. That includes the Journal Insight from this morning, includes the podcast this afternoon. It also includes the upcoming Roberto Firmino documentary, Best in the World, which let me tell you now is going to be epic. So yeah, Club Captain Yearly, use the code MAC10, half price. What more could you want? Thank you very much again for listening. Thank you very much for all the comments. David John for the gifted memberships. What a man. What a man you are. I will see you all again soon. Take it easy.
Our new 3-part Bobby Firmino Best in the World documentary series is dropping this June. And if you go to redmenplus.com and sign up as a Club Legend yearly subscriber, not only will you get access to all of those shows and the extra content, we're going to send you codes for 2 free pieces of Roberto Firmino merch. Grab yourself a mug, grab yourself a tea, and put your feet up and watch the best documentary series this summer.
Everyone, hope you enjoyed that show. Do you want to get your hands on some amazing Liverpool merchandise? Well, if you become a Redmen Plus Club Legend on a yearly subscription, we'll instantly send you 2 merch codes to get you 2 pieces of merchandise from redmenmerch.com. T-shirts are amazing. Go and get yourselves one. Simply become a Redmen Plus Club Legend on a yearly subscription, and that code will be in your inbox very, very shortly.